the Ulster Hall in Belfast, a famous compact boxing arena, the stage for tonight's big fight live, and once again a world title. Espana's all set for the first defence of the world welterweight title. He's 28. His record says simply 28 fights, 28 wins. Barney Eastwood has guided Espana's career since he ran out of opponents in Venezuela back in 1990. Is a fanatical trainer. He loves running and often jogs the 14 miles from Bangor to the Eastwood gym in Belfast. Since his arrival in Ireland, he's won 20 fights on the spin. Style and technique have been added to his natural aggression. Espana's reach is quite exceptional, longer than many heavyweight champions. He's emerged from a tough background, one of 15 children born into a poor farming family. Nicknamed Claws, he scratched the champion Meldrick Taylor to pieces to win this title. Taylor was stopped in the 8th. He's calm, relaxed, very self-confident, and he's never been off his feet. The Texan David Gonzalez should have been his opponent, but boxing politics rule. So a really packed and a very knowledgeable crowd they have here in Belfast. And Espana, a tremendously popular sportsman here. I really have been amazed at the depth of feeling for Crisanto Espana. Rodolfo Aguilar in the ring already. And here comes Espana, very laid back, cool sort of fellow. Once ran 2 hours 17 for the marathon, and that is a very respectable time indeed. So stamina definitely not a problem for this guy. Deeply religious man, reads the Bible every day. He says he fears no one. He'll box anywhere to earn big money. And my feeling is he's on the verge of some very, very big paydays, providing everything goes okay for him here in this very warm hall in Belfast. The big fight commentators, as always, will be Jim Watt and Reg Guttridge. First of all, it's our MC, Danny Small.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the principal contest of the evening, sponsored by Smirnoff in association with Eastwood Promotions. 12 3-minute rounds of boxing for the WBA Welterweight Championship of the World between Crisanto Espana and Rodolfo Aguilar. At the weigh-in, Aguilar weighed 10 stone 5 3/4 pounds. Espana weighed 10 stone 7 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, in the red corner, with 39 contests, 33 wins, 13 stoppages, 4 lost and 2 draws, from Panama, the challenger, Rodolfo Aguilar. In the blue corner, 28 contests, undefeated, 25 KOs, from Venezuela, boxing out of Belfast, Crisanto Espana. This is appointed by the WBA. Your judges are Henk Meijers of Holland, Washington Gonzalez of Chile, Nelson Vazquez of Puerto Rico. The supervisor is Nipper Reid from London. Officials appointed by the British Boxing Board of Control, stewards in charge, Bill Sheeran and John Williamson, inspectors John Toner and Sam McAutry. Your medical officers this evening, Dr. George O'Neill, Dr. Paul McKeown and Dr. Dermot Grant. Your timekeeper this evening is Mr. Dale Elliott, and from Nottingham your referee is Mr. John Coyle.
So a very experienced referee there, John Coyle of Wolverhampton. And just to put you in the picture with this knockdown situation with the various ruling bodies, if one boxer goes down 3 times in one round, it's automatically over. WBA. It doesn't happen in the World Boxing Council. So at least Aguilar hasn't had any flying problems, any jet lags, because he's actually resident in France. Managed by John Corriges, the fashion house people. He's a well-backed fighter, but I know very little about him apart from his statistics. Espana, of course, looked tremendous when he stopped Meldrick Taylor at Earl's Court. That was last October. 8 rounds, and Meldrick Taylor was one of the brightest on the American scene, a former gold medalist with the Dover camp. It's extraordinary reach this man's got, Espana. Longer than heavyweights like Marciano and Patterson and Johansson and even Frazier. It's a good nickname for him, really, Jim, Claws, because he gives that impression, doesn't he, when he's long arms, he's always clawing you with punches.
Yeah, always moving forward, well balanced on his feet, good solid professional, and that reach really is a problem for everybody.
See how he handles southpaw. I shouldn't think that bothers him. He'd employed a couple of southpaw sparring partners in Belfast, although he lives in Bangor. He calls it Bangoria, by the way. The French camp with a fellow called George Cantor has been around years as an agent. He seemed to think Aguilar can give him a real run for his money. He won his last fight in December. Then he was rated among the top 10 at the time. And as Jim Rodensaw said, he took over from David Gonzalez, who for some reason or other was ruled out by the WBA. So midway through the first then, and Barney Eastwood's trainers were telling me that they're not looking for a fast finish by Espana. They want him to, you know, get this fella in range, do a bit of scalps, see what it's all about. Become very popular actually in Northern Ireland in the years that he's lived here in Spain. When he fought in London, he took 400 supporters with him to that late night show at Earl's Court.
It's a fairly quiet opening round from Espana, but he's in total control all the way through. He hasn't taken a punch from Aguilar. He's keeping him on the end of the jab, just finding the range, taking his time.
Form book doesn't say that Aguilar's that much of a puncher, although he stopped 13. Espana, 25 stoppages and 28 wins.
He's a good boxer. I think he can give Espana a few problems, but I don't think he does anything well enough to take the title away. But hopefully he'll pose him quite a few problems.
In many ways, Jim, it's the least predictable sporting game of all, the fight game. So that's Bernardo Chaco working in the corner. They're a very good trainer, former boxer from Panama, who, strangely enough, actually went to school with Aguilar, and then they boxed out of Venezuela. So it's all a bit South American, but very much Northern Ireland. Jim, have a look at that replay from the overhead camera.
Yeah, well, a good, calm, controlled start from Espana. Never in a hurry, just taking his time, finding the range. Didn't have to take anything at all, really. Just as I say, boxing his way into the fight, he'll start switching with body shots to slow this fella down, I would imagine.
Bit of early make-up there, isn't it? Well, it would be with the fashion house promoting him like that, keeping him in good looks, I suppose. Professional at 19, this fella.
Round 2.
Second round then. Welterweight division, 10 stone 7, 66 kilos, and Espana was right on the money, 10 stone 7, 10 5 3/4 Aguilar. Espana's brother, Jim, you well remember, Ernesto was the WBA lightweight champion when you were the WBC champion back in '79.
It's difficult to advise an opponent what to do with Espana. He has everything going for him. He's got punching power, good variety, a tremendously long reach, and a good chin when he needs it. So there's not really much you can suggest to an opponent to break him out of that rhythm.
Except when the bell goes, Jim, probably look out, here he comes. rat-tat-tat with the left hand there, wasn't it, Jim? The postman's knock punch from Espana.
You know, Aguilar's trying to counter with a left hand, a southpaw left hand, after Catchy blocking the jab. So at least he has some ideas of what he wants to do here. Very quiet in the first round, but now he's trying to get down to some work.
Exactly, actually, as the Hispanic camp suggested, that he wouldn't go crazy in the opening rounds. Very good trainer, Espana, really gets himself into good condition.
Yeah, a couple of little signs that Aguilar's not all that bad as Reg, you know. Slipping punches, keeping his chin out of harm's way, coming back with a nice little counter. See, slipping and sliding, they're not taking anything. Good technician.
Might have to find out if he's got a good chin to go with it.
So the one thing you mustn't do with Espana is to keep your own chin in the one position too long, because he has a tremendous reach, catches you from way back.
Really a neutral crowd, isn't it, really? Although he's their man in many ways now, Espana. The Irish have certainly taken to him in the Belfast and Bangor areas.
Well, Espana throwing good shots, Reg, but Aguilar, good technique, just keeping his chin out of harm's way.
Win on this fellow's record against Terence Ali. That's a good result with the Guyanian who lives in America. And matter of fact, fights Julio Cesar Chavez on Saturday. Jim?
Espana trying to get a little bit closer in the second round here, but when he did, Aguilar coping with it well, just keeping that chin, keeping the head moving, don't hang around. See, this is where he's looking at the punches coming, slipping, sliding, trying to come back with the odd counter. Good boxing from the challenger then. But obviously the reach, a real problem.
And that's Sharon, Mrs. Espana, watching. What a day that must have been in Bangor.
Corners, 10
when
seconds.
the fighters had a joint wedding there. 3 of them got married. Just incredible, really, isn't it?
Seconds out.
Bangor with Bernardo Checa and Victor Cordoba, who was world champion and now has returned to Venezuela. Round 3. Certainly Aguilar doesn't seem to be intimidated at all by this fellow. I mean, knowing that he'd stopped Meldrick Taylor, which really was a good performance. Even if Meldrick Taylor had slipped a little, he still did it in style.
Yeah, I mean, we can't expect him to be too brave or reckless. And there, the first little slip he makes, he gets a right hand on the ear. So we can't expect Aguilar just to take chances. He's going to have to take his time, get as many rounds behind him as he possibly can, and hope some of the sharpness leaves Espana's punches.
Get the impression Espana's not too happy fighting a right-hand forward southpaw, Jim.
I don't think he likes boxing shifty opponents at any time. He likes them to come forward or at least stand their ground. But we don't always get what we like, but when he starts putting them together, he starts to look that little bit classier than Aguilar. That's a lovely right-hand punch from Espana. Just seems set to pounce at all times.
Well, the most natural of welterweights, actually, Aguilar. He's weighed as much as 10.4. And, you know, they usually come in at 10.9s to get down to the 10.7 division. A really wiry-looking fighter, Espana. He's tremendous strength he's got. He's not too muscular, really, but strong in the arms.
Yeah, and a good pressure fighter. He stays with you all the time. He's always right there in front of you. He doesn't give you a moment's respite.
Minute to go in the third.
I don't know how Aguilar's going to cope with him when he raises the pace and signs that he's about to do that. And I don't know if Aguilar has the punch power or the strength to stay with him.
He knows how to slip and slide, Aguilar, but for how long?
Yeah, well, it's a kind of negative campaign he's having to mount at the moment, and that's fair enough. You expect that the first 4 or 5 rounds. He just wants the pace to slow. So he's coming back with decent punches. He has a good box, a good technique, but he's met a good champion at the top of his game here.
It's quite a strong division too, the World Championships. You've got Pernell Whittaker, WBC, Maurice Blocker, and then the Dane Gerbo Jakob. Takes it all very cool, calm and collected, this fella. Just another day at the office as far as he's concerned. As an amateur, he won 54 or 64 actually and boxed internationally for Venezuela, and then came to Belfast with Bernardo Checo, a former boxer who became a trainer and with the Eastwood camp. There it is again, Jim.
See, Espana's still stalking. He hasn't moved into the top gear yet. He's still looking to find the range, finding the shots that are going to land. But Aguilar's still giving him some problems, but Espana still has a lot to show yet.
A little bit of a nick, I'd say, in the corner underneath the eye there.
Second zone. Round 4.
4th round. Or scheduled for 12 championship contests. And the southpaw in red trunks is Rodolfo Aguilar from Panama, but based in Paris. And Crisanto Espana from Venezuela, but now living in Northern Ireland. Unbeaten Espana, and been very shrewdly managed, and got to his peak at the right time by stopping Belfast Taylor.
Espana's just using the jab to try and get close to unload some clusters of punches. He's not really putting the snap or the power into the jab. It might be an idea to start doing that. Aguilar's got up.
Oh dear, because they bumped heads there, Jim, as well. He hit him with a punch underneath. Is that a bad cut in the 4th round? It's accidental, the referee is telling the judges.
I don't think there's a cut. I think it was just a bad smack.
Just a bad smack. He's got a hell of a swelling there. I thought he was cut. He turned away from us as he caught that.
I thought he'd actually injured his hand or his wrist the way he stopped.
Yeah, so did I.
The bang of heads. I think Espana wants a bit more snap in that jab. You know, he's just kind of searching with the jab, just flicking out, trying to get close enough to let the combinations go, but he wants to put a bit of power, maybe start discouraging this fellow.
Yeah, you're right, Jim. I sense that now with Espana, and he's looking, a little bit of spite in the eyes as well there. You can tell as he moved in, as if to say, I think I might have got you going.
There's a bit of blood now. I wonder if try to see where the blood's coming from. It looks as though there is a cut in the eye, Reg. It just looks like between the eyes, actually.
Yeah, it's on the bridge of the nose.
It took a time to bleed, so I don't imagine it's a deep cut. It's definitely caused by a bump of heads anyway. Espana's not really getting home cleanly, Regs. This fella's giving him a lot of problems.
Yeah, he's not going to give it in lightly, and sometimes it can be their only challenge for the World Championship.
And if Espana starts becoming frustrated, over anxious, he might start making mistakes. But he's finding it difficult to catch this fellow clean.
Certainly knows the business. They're great boxing watchers. Have you noticed that in Belfast, Jim? They don't cheer until the end of the round and the end of the fight. Not so much, particularly when it's not a local lad. Well, they're not rushing in with the adrenaline swabs there, Jim. That's surprising. Oh, they are now. There it is, as I thought, right on the bridge of the nose there. It's out of harm's way as far as seconds are concerned. Have a look at that replay.
Well, thankfully it doesn't seem a bad cut, but Aguilar got a little bit more confidence in his work for the first time. He was making Espana miss, confusing him a little bit and come back with decent counters. See, that's where the hard clash of heads, it really was a bad one. Thankfully the cut not too serious.
And the referee did right there, telling the judges that it was an accidental butt. There it is.
Corners, 10 seconds.
I don't often see that. In fact, Espana had every right to go after him. I'm glad he didn't anyway. Well, he's really blasted up there. I wouldn't be surprised if the referee doesn't stop and wipe a little bit of that off. Round 5. Very cool, calculating, and well, hardly a Latin temperament really for Espana, both in and out of the ring.
Well, I thought Aguilar produced his best boxing in the previous round there. Started getting a little bit of confidence in what he was doing. Starts maybe a bit of belief in himself. Didn't take control or anything, but boxed well. Caused the champion a couple of problems.
Came into the ring having had 104 professional rounds, Espana. The thing about Wheeler, Jim, only has a great Julio Cesar Chavez has stopped this fellow. So it obviously takes a bit of knocking over. He's been down, he was down with Sammy Fuentes. But he's now on 11 wins on the turn. No, 10 wins actually.
And he keeps moving to his own right. That's the way a southpaw wants to move. Espana should be stepping across and blocking his exit, trying to push him round in a clockwise direction. See, if he gets, although he's outreached, if he gets outside of Espana's jab, he can start scoring with that southpaw jab of his own.
The Eastwood camp knew exactly what they were up against because Ron Eastwood had actually seen this fella a couple of times in Europe. And he said, I'm certainly not riding him off by any chance. He said, I'd rather have fought Gonzalez. It might have been an easier fight for us.
Well, still that look of confidence about the challenger's work, Reggie. He fancies the job a bit more. Very negative start. But you can see he's confusing the champion. He's not taking too many clean shots himself. He's getting that little bit of confidence now. Yeah, good punching. He's beginning to put them together now, slipping the lead, coming back with 2 and 3 counters. Espana's not landing anything here, Reg, just flicking with that jab. This is a good round for the challenger so far. Starting to bleed a little bit again.
Just a reminder there, the judges Puerto Rico, Holland and Chile. And the WBA supervisor is Vice President Nipper Reed, Chairman of the British Boxing Board of Control.
Aguilar using the left hand lead to good effect, catching the Espana's jab and coming back with a left hand counter.
Countdown for the 5th. The nose bleeding, as obviously it would. Sometimes it takes a round or two to staunch. Let's Gary Newborn have a word with co-promoter Frank Warren.
Frank, Espana is obviously a genuine world champion, but he's from Venezuela. How are you going to convince the British public that they should really get behind this chap?
Well, hopefully, if he comes through this fight okay tonight, he's going to fight Hector Camacho, which is going to be a big fight on September the 10th in the States. And now they get massive exposure for him also in America. If he comes through that fight, then we're hoping that he will fight the winner of Whitaker and Chavez. And, you know, he's getting great exposure tonight. ITV's seeing him, you know, live. and I'm sure the British public would take to him.
Very quickly, he seems to not like southpaws, does he? That's the one weakness there.
I think he could do with the fella coming forward. You know, he's but he'll get to him. I think he'll get to him. But he doesn't, as you say, like southpaws. He prefers an orthodox fighter.
Seconds out.
Just having another examination of that. He wants to, I thought he would. He wants to wipe him down a little bit, taking time off here. Yeah, they've got, you know, a little bit too much Vaseline and probably adrenaline cream around the face there. So set for 12 rounds, the WBA version of the welterweight championship of the world at 10 stone 7.
Seconds out. Round 6.
Round 6. All that time, the Spaniard was sitting there, standing, I should say, in a neutral corner, wondering what was going on. Bit of a chess match, Jim, now, isn't it?
Yeah, but the challenger produced his best boxing in the 5th round. He was beating Espana to the punch, putting his punches together better. Espana still just feeling his way with that jab, not snapping it into Aguilar's face. He's got the reach, he should be getting some snap behind the jab and breaking this fellow down. But he keeps trying to get close and let clusters go. And Aguilar beginning to steal a few of the points. See, good boxing here from the challenger. Good sharp southpaw jab and hook there. See, Espana likes to get close to an opponent, stay there and let clusters of punches go. When he's in against a slippery opponent, he can't get himself set to let the punches go. And the single shots he's throwing don't have enough authority. See, this, he's just tapping out with that jab, just trying to get close to let the combinations go. But he's getting popped as he comes forward with a southpaw jab at the challenger. Good shot from the Spaniard there.
Yeah, he missed with the left hook and then caught him with the right hand. Signs of frustration with the Spaniard in the last couple of rounds. He can't afford to do that.
If the fella doesn't want to come close, then the Spaniard should get down to his long-range boxing and put some more snap into his punches. So he's just waving that jab sometimes. He wants to snap it right out.
Minute to go in the 6th. Coyle has had 14 fights in France. 2 of them were 12 rounders.
Aguilar is still producing the better punching in this round.
So you can't understand Espana while he's not landing accurately with those punches. This fella's very smart mover. Bit of an old ring general, I think. He's only a few months older, actually, than Espana.
It's a nice, confident way he gets out of corners to Espana. Desperate to pin him down in a corner, but can't quite do it.
Countdown, the end of the 6th round. Well, he's got to start get into a higher gear now in the second half of the fight, this fellow. No doubt there's the corner there with Checker and Eastwood to say, well, come on, you've got to put it together here. You never know how these judges are scoring this one. This is where Espana was coming in again on this replay, Jim. So he missed with that one, then that was the right hand. Bingo, he caught him there. Jim, as Aguilar coming back.
Yeah, and they come back several times with good shots, putting 3 punches together there. Lovely punch combination from the challenger. But Espana still not making use of the long-range jab. He's just shoving it out, trying to get himself close to let clusters go.
Second
And I don't
time.
think Aguilar is ready for that.
Round 7.
7th round. The referee making sure the seconds are well out of the ring before he waves them on. Have you got it at this point, Jim?
Yeah, I've got Espana in front all right, but the last couple of rounds, certainly the 5th I gave to the challenger, the 6th I thought his punching was better, the quality, but he took the first few rounds to get started. But I still feel something a bit more dramatic is required from Espana. See, he's still flicking out that jab. He's not scoring any points with this. He's been doing too much of that. He's trying to get close to let clusters go when he should be breaking the fellow up just with single and double shots. See, he hasn't really landed any of those jabs yet. He's just prodding, just trying to find his way in. I really feel he has to put this fellow under a bit more pressure. He's stalking, but he's not really forcing him to work at Espana's pace. It's time to move up a gear.
Well, he spins out of trouble there, Aguilar. Knows exactly what he's doing. Almost like he's reading what's coming next.
A real classy boxer, Reg. He knows what he's doing, and he's banging the little jab. Good counter punches. See, Espana's going to have to march in that little bit closer. See, it's still missing. Espana must be missing when 90% of the punches he's throwing.
Decent punch to the body early there with Espana, but I was looking closely there at Aguilar's face. Didn't wince at all.
Well, if you look how often Espana has missed in this round, Reg. Aguilar still snapping back with little counters, nice little jabs.
Oh, he's turned orthodox, Jim. What do you think of that? No, he hasn't. He's gone back again. Changed his mind a bit lively.
See, Espana stalking again, but not really applying the pressure. Not forcing him into making mistakes. See, he's just standing in front.
Oh, it's a good little burst there, Jim. He's trying to steal this fight, isn't he, Coyle?
Well, the longer it goes, the more confidence Aguilar's having, and you can see it in his boxing now. Nothing like the negative boxer in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And that was a nice jab from Espana. That was a good snappy jab.
Yeah, you've been saying that, and that's the first really good punch for the last 3 rounds with the left jab. Well, the second's a bit late coming up there, but he doesn't seem to be too bothered about it anyway. First World Championship held in the Ulster Hall here in Belfast. Some amateur shows I've watched here over the years, great Irish boxers. Jim?
Well, you can see the trouble all the way through. Espana couldn't get his punches home in that round. He was pushing the challenger back, but see, missing again, and that's what happened throughout the round. I mean, 90-95% of the punches he threw in that round were missing, and he was taking little counters in return. So if you're going to count punches landed, you can actually give that round to the challenger.
Well, that's what it's all about on the target area, as they say.
Round 8.
Making sure they don't come out before the bell. I think that was started by Lloyd Hannigan against Johnny Bumpers at Wembley, who flew off the chair like an ejector seat. Not enough variety in Espana's work as reigning champion.
And I think he's been 2-1 paced, Reg. This has been the same pace from the first round. It worked in the first couple of rounds, but since then Aguilar has found his confidence. He's enjoying what he's doing. He's not taking any clean shots, slipping, sliding. He's coming back with his own counters, and his punches are landing cleaner.
I wouldn't have thought there's any stamina problems with Espana if you judge him by marathon running, although you don't have to take any punches when you're doing that. But he's only actually gone 12 rounds once in his career.
See, the one thing about marathon running too, Reg, you hit a pace and just hold that pace, and that's what he's doing here, which is wrong. He's boxing at the same pace. He wants to raise it and drop it. This is better. No, he's still getting caught with the counters. Yeah,
you see the referees there saying keep them on target. There was just a bit borderline there on Coyle's trunks there.
So much of Espana's works out of range. See, not really a clean punch out of those three.
He's better off when he throws the punch, close-in body punch like that, Espana.
I've got to give Aguilar a lot of credit, Ray. This is some of the best defensive boxing I've seen in a long time. Yeah. Very few mistakes, good concentration.
Yeah, he knows how to slip and slide all the time. That's probably why the champion's trying to work to the body a bit. It's a lot more chance of landing.
Another 3 punches missing from the champion. He can't pin him down.
More right hands, more right hands. Straight right. Yes.
All sorts of instructions coming both from corners and crowd here.
I just think the one thing he has to do, Reg, is raise the pace and keep it raised, sustain it.
Yeah, the crowd sense that, and I think Aguilar knows there he's getting hurt, but he's fighting back.
I think this fella's a lot better than anybody imagines, Reg. But at this pace, you have to fancy Espana. He has the power and he has the variety.
Coming up the end of the 8th round. Not a particularly good round for this fellow, was it? He fought back with a lot of guts, so I like that when he was under fire. But a good round there for Espana. And in replay?
When the pace is raised, Espana really looks the business. He gives him some serious problems, but too much of his work has been at long range and at the wrong pace. But he found his form in that round, certainly. He produced some good stuff. But he has to sustain that if he wants to hang on to the title. Has to make this fellow work for the rest of the fight. Force him to work at a higher pace and take charge.
Well, he's a little bit more accurate with that punches in the earlier rounds anyway.
Seconds out.
John Coyle checks the corners. I think untoward is going on. Make sure there's not too much water being thrown on the canvas. So out for the 8th round.
Let's go. Right hand left.
Just a reminder, World Boxing Association Welterweight Championship of the World at 10 stone 7. And there are the nickname claws there on the champion's trunks, but he hasn't been able to nail this fella at all. Not for long anyway, a couple of punches.
Left, right. Not again, Tom.
That shows you in this business, Jim, isn't it? You know, you think, well, this fella's well down in the world ratings, but giving him all the trouble he can handle. Maybe he'd have been better off against the number 1 or 2 challenger.
Yeah, well, just probably the wrong type of opponent. Espana likes the fellow to trade punches with him. He doesn't like the smart boxers. And this fellow, he's certainly got to give him that. He's as smart as I've seen. Espana trying to raise the pace, take charge of things a little bit more.
Get in there, Chris. Get in there.
Espana's corner telling him to try and move in and force this fellow to trade punches with him, pressure him a bit more. Easier said than done. What was this from outside of the ring?
It's still just that searching jab. It's not that the snapping jab that he should have.
the way Aguilar responds when he's in trouble like that, though, Jim. That's a sign of a good fighter, isn't it?
Yeah, this fella's a lot better than anybody expected.
A minute to go in the 8th round. The 9th round, I'm sorry.
Espana beginning to look the boss again as he was earlier in the fight. But he has to maintain this pace. And that's more like what we expect from him.
Crowd encouraging the challenger, though.
Espana's punching has been a little bit ponderous tonight, but this is better now.
Hasn't been too much inside work, where it's mostly long range. Well, the crowd responding to that, a much more lively round. So he said he wants plenty of money in the bank if he can go back to farming maybe in Venezuela, but let's find out what her indoors thinks in Bangor. Jim?
Yeah, well, Espana produced some better quality work in that round, raised the pace and controlled the pace a bit more. But still Aguilar, plenty of confidence. He's found his confidence as the fight has gone on, and still producing plenty of problems. See, he still comes back with good clusters of his own. This was just after a good exchange and some good punches from the champion, but Aguilar come back. Good shot, still fancies the job.
10 seconds. Seconds out.
Certainly a quiet corner there. The cornermen get themselves a little excited, but Espana doesn't. Good temperament for the game, but he's really finding this fellow difficult to nail the whole time. Signs of frustration. Well, we'll find out. Well, both of them legs are trustworthy now, I suppose, but they're experienced enough in this sort of fight to go 12 rounds at a good pace. No knockdown so far, if you just joined us.
See, the few times that Aguilar comes forward, you would think Espana could make him pay for that, but he hasn't managed.
Well, what do you know about this, Jim? The challenger trying to beat Espana at his own game, punching power.
Look, we actually drove him back there. Espana will have to come back with something, put that little burst out of the mind of the judges. Still can't pin him down.
Just been a bit too predictable, isn't he, Espana? That's surprising, really. He looks so brilliant against Meldrick Taylor.
See, he's been 2-1 pace, just doing the same things. And when Aguilar solved out what was happening, Espana hasn't changed it any.
Certainly Aguilar's corner is fancying their chances now, unless they can't put some pressure on. They think they can win it. That's how interpreters have been telling us. French contingent here, very small, but on the ringside, the manager John Carogies and George Cantor, American who lives in France.
Well, I've always looked upon Espana as the complete fighter, but this just reminds you that he still has a little bit to learn. Because he's never managed to pin this fellow down. And just, as you say, too predictable all the way through. Still maybe outworking him a little bit.
Yeah, he seemed to be, as you put it early on, around the 6th round, he was in front then. But this fellow's come well back into the picture.
Yeah, well, So many of Espana's punches were missing in the middle round, so you can't score points, but this fella was coming back with counters. He's still doing it now.
He's the one now, the challenger, who keeps moving up a gear instead of the champion.
It's just a couple of signs that Espana getting through to him.
Well, the vibes in the corner there are pretty good, aren't they? I think they're pitching that water over him and everything, and apparently they're saying, come on, you can win it now. Jim, the overhead look.
Yeah, again, some good work from the champion. I think he realises he has a real fight in his hands, but this was at the start of the round when Aguilar had a real go at driving him back, but it didn't last too long, but shows he still has plenty of spirit and still, as I said earlier, fancying the job. See, I mean, his work had no confidence in the first 2 or 3 rounds, but suddenly he feels, I think, he's solved the champion now. The champion not coming up with anything new, and he's well in the fight now.
Second time, round 11.
So certainly Aguilar's corner there, the start of the 11th round, as they come on, open up with punches and fight back, and that's exactly what he's been doing, and with quite a bit of success.
See, Espana's just outworking him a little bit. I think that's what he's depending on, the fact that he's done so much more work than Aguilar.
Yeah, I think so, Jim. I think he was stealing it early on, Espana.
Yeah, see, when he gets down to work, when he moves into the right gear, he certainly looks like the champion. He's not sustaining that. See, he's standing off again.
Crowd really encouraging now Espana to move in, but he's still got that little touch of wary as it moves in there to say, well, this fella can open up with me.
See, when you're in with a fella who slips and slides with his head, the best plan is to go for the body. They can't move the body so easily. This is better work now from the champion. He's making Aguilar pay for the mistakes he's making. I think Aguilar's corner have sent him out to try and have a big round, but he's maybe playing into the champion's hand a little bit.
They're calling for a left hook there in Espana's corner. Any punch would do at this stage of the game. Midway through the 11th. Unusual banging on that canvas there with that. She's fighting him back all the time, Aguilar, but Espana's ahead now, Jim.
Well, he's the boss, right? See, but this is what he should have done earlier. They should have raised the pace and maintained the pace. This fellow can't go with him. He doesn't have the strength or the power. This is more like the championship stuff from the champion. Yeah, he has to sustain this to the end of the round.
He's banged around the eyes there, Aguilar, isn't he? But they've done well in the corner, actually. It was only on the bridge of the nose, which were easy for them to staunch the coagulates.
See, better stuff now from Espana. So I think the 3 or 4 rounds start he got, and now the good work he's produced in the last couple of rounds there. Will just hasn't done enough work to get himself in front.
Well, they're noticeable enough that the judges won't miss those, and certainly Aguilar caught them okay. Countdown for the 11th. Just over 3 minutes to go. The referee doesn't vote. Judges Puerto Rico, Holland and Chile. Only the second time that he's coming out for the 12th round now, this champion. So the man they call Claus has, well, he's had to hang on to the championship. Maybe the judges are giving it by a big margin. We'll find out. Jim?
Well, I think Aguilar came out looking for a big round in the 11th, and he's played a little bit into the champion's hands. He was coming forward, a more stationary target, and you can see how Espana took advantage of that. A good round for the champion, and just maybe widened the points gap just a little bit.
Corners, 10 seconds.
Well, he broke the record of not only being down once in a fight, Aguilar, and Espana's never taken a count. So they're both absorb punches, okay. So the punches, you may not think they're the heaviest of punches, but they really do absorb them well, these two. Good touch in the final round then. I always think touching gloves in a round like that is like the pleasantries that a dentist offers before the extraction. Have you got any doubts at all, Jim?
No, I've got Espana in front. I've never actually had Aguilar in front. He closed the gap around about the 6th, 7th and 8th round. Produced a lot of good work in Espana. One paced, he was out of range a lot, missing a lot of punches. But I don't think he ever got himself in front, in my reckoning. And the 11th round, a good round for the champion. And he's picking up where he left off, keeping him on the end of the long jab. I just don't think Espana has made full use of the jab. He has a tremendous long jab. He never put enough snap into it all the way through. He may have got control of this fight earlier, but he's producing certainly the better work now.
Still plenty of fight left in Aguilar. Just doesn't carry that extra bit of power though.
Well, he hasn't had to pay any respect to Espana's power. He's never been troubled. You've never seen his head rocked on his shoulders. He's never been in any trouble really. And the longer the fight's gone, the more confidence will come. But these are good punches now from Espana. He's hitting them now with the wrong ones.
Good scoring punches, Jim.
For the first time, Aguilar having to clutch when they got up close. He's never been doing that before. I think he's really feeling the pace. See, he's always been the one being stalked and pressurised. For me, not enough. He was never put under enough pressure, and he's feeling the pace now.
There it is, a countdown coming up there then for the end of the WBA Welterweight Championship of the World. And a much harder fight indeed for Crisanto Espana, the Venezuelan, against Rodolfo Aguilar from Panama. Venezuelan based in Bangor in Northern Ireland, and Aguilar based in Paris. Good finish to it. And a bit of mutual respect there, that's nice to see. Well, the French corner of Panamanians as well saying, and that's just the other corner going over and congratulating him. So now the usual hang up for waiting for those judges' cards while the supervisor, Nipper Reed, make sure that they're all added. They've all been taken in after each round anyway. It's just collecting the last round ones and getting the totals right. Oh, what a Jim, that came up literally in the last half minute. He was swollen all the way through, but that really came up. What an injury. Almost seconds to go before that balloon like that.
Yes, perfectly up, so he'll be quite pleased that didn't happen earlier. I wonder if that's been an elbow or a head that's caught there, Regs. That's an unusual injury.
Oh,
an awful
terrible,
lot,
yeah.
And as you say, it's just come up instantly. Wonder maybe if an accidental
Espana apparently, Jim, has got some hand trouble, which is why he was holding back, assuming it was the left hand. Just saw the second showing out there that was been their problem.
Yes.
I just don't feel that Aguilar did enough work over the 12 rounds to nick the title. Had a good spell in the middle rounds where he got his confidence, made the champion miss, scored well with counter punches. But the champion had a real good start and a real good finish to the 12 rounds. So I feel that should allow him to hang on to his title.
A bit of a friendly conversation going on there with a couple of warriors. Even a few laughs there. That's great, isn't it, to see that? Makes such a difference. I mean, there's so much money at stake for a fellow like this. Aguilar, you're looking at now that if he won the championship of the world.
Ladies and gentlemen,
There it is.
this is the decision of the judges. Judge Vazquez scored it 117-111.
That's a big one. 6 points.
Judge Meijers scored it
5 points.
100. Judge Gonzalez scored it 119-110. Unanimous decision. Still champion of the world.
Yeah, the judges are doing it quite big there. So retains the championship then for Crisanto Espana, and we'll be back after this break with some after-fight interviews.
Hello once again from Belfast. So Crisanto Espana still the world champion. Let me just correct the scoring, it might have misled you a little bit. 117, 111, 119, 110 and 120, 109 it was, not 120, 100 of course, and that's still given Espana 11 of the 12 rounds. I must admit I find that very perplexing. Let's go and have a word with Barney Eastwood now, and he is talking of course to Gary Newbon.
Well, Barney, first of all, news on the left hand of Espana.
Yeah, well, he's not a complainer, but we said to him after the second round, he said he had hurt his left hand and it was very sore. And as you can see there, that knuckle there is massive. There's a massive swelling in it. And then after the sixth round, he said it was very, very sore. And, you know, he's a guy that never complains and he's pain resistant. So really it must be very sore when he complains, you know. However, he did what he had to do, and I think maybe we were all disappointed. We thought he would have won in a knockout. But fair play to the other opponent. He was a good southpaw, he was a great mover, and he knows all the tricks. And
he exposed Espana a little bit in the fact that Crisanto was a bit predictable and won pace tonight until near the end.
Yes, well, he had been out of the ring for 6 months now, as you know, and we've found with him also that his first fight after a lie-off, he would really have needed a warm-up fight.
Well, if you're going to sell him to the British public, because he is from Venezuela, are you going to bring in the big names, as Frank Warren suggested, from America?
Well, Don King has made us an offer now to fight Camacho on the same show as Julio Cesar Chavez and Pernell Whitaker. That would be the two welterweight championships on the same night, and the winners to meet. We haven't finalised the deal, but he has made an offer for the Camacho part, so I want a deal whereby we get a full deal for the two fights. And the money's on the table, and Frank Warren's going to America at the weekend, and I expect that we'll come up with something.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Barney. Well done, Christoph. Good result.
He's not been rude to Espana there. Espana is English, really not good enough for an interview. But of course, the dodgy hand really, well, if you hit as hard as he does, that's one of the perils of this trade. Rejoin us here in a couple of minutes. We've got news of a shock on the undercard.